House to Home, presented by Remax Diamond Realty.
If there is one theme that we have here on House to Home every Tuesday, everybody, it is myself, Jason Salas, along with Liz Duenas and Gina Campos. It's that we have fun. And, this doesn't need to be, reinventing the wheel, splitting the atom, solving cold fusion, whatever like that. We want to make the process enjoyable for you when you find the piece of property of your dreams. And Gina, for part 3, we are making this fun when we finally come to figuring out everything with the bank in part 1, part 2, finding the right realtor for you. And now we're actually picking property. How is this fun?
Yeah.
How do we make this fun?
Well, that's what you're doing all the hard work for, isn't it? The beginning part of it is getting all the documents to the bank and then finding somebody you want to work with. That's all the grunt work. Now it's actually time to get out there and enjoy yourself. Find your dream home or your dream lot or your dream condo, whatever it is. But that's what all the hard work is geared towards, is actually finding that right property. And this is really the fun part.
Okay, now, Liz, I would think that most people would maybe naively assume that you actually go the opposite route. It's like, okay, you go out and you look for a house first, and then you figure out how much you can spend, and then you figure out a realtor to hook you up with the deal. But you're saying, like, in terms of efficiency and effectiveness, this would be the best way to go.
Yes, and we don't recommend you go out and start hunting before you do the grunt work, because you may find that perfect home that you love, and then the disappointing part of it is you don't qualify for the loan, or you didn't have what was required in order to purchase that home.
And having your heart broken is not fun. I know this. That's my high school years right there.
It's definitely not fun. Now, what people would do, with the technology nowadays, you could go online, and it doesn't matter whose website. Let's say you're working with me or Gina, and you're searching for a property. Sometimes it helps just to go online, just to see what properties are currently available, what the price points are, what the amenities. So the cool part is the Guam Association of Realtors has our multiple listing, which all the real estate realtors, the agents, have access to. The public, there is a public site where they can go in and just look at the properties, how many bedrooms, what the amenities, the different villages. So Jason, if you wanted to buy a home only in Tamuning, or you have a perimeter that you want to search for, you may do so online. At least that is a start. But the element of running around and actually viewing the properties, it makes a big difference when you start to look online, just to see.
And there is a lot of data that goes along with the MLS, everybody. To be fair, it's a browser-based app, but you can just at least take a look at the pictures, get the there's nice maps that get embedded with it. You can see like where in a certain village it is and everything. You get a general idea of the property.
That's correct.
Even if you don't want to drill into like all of the numbers and stuff.
Yeah, it does give you a general idea of values, what sellers are expecting for certain areas. Of course, you need your realtor to really sit down with you and take apart the data so you understand better. The other thing that I want to say is, Liz is mentioning go into MLS and take a look at the data there. I find a lot of people who call me on my sign, they say, well, and I ask them, how, if you're serious about getting into a home, what have you done so far? What is your mechanism to help you find the right home? And they like to say, well, we just want to drive around, we want to drive around. And when we see signs, we call. The problem with that is I find a lot of times by the time they see my sign and they call me, the property is already gone. 80% of the time, when they call me on the sign, I have to tell them, that property there's already a bid on the property. It's already pending with a buyer. If it doesn't go through, I'm glad to call you and let you know. But what we're encouraging is you actually find a realtor you like working with and have that person be on the lookout. Because like I check MLS like 2-3 times a day. And if I see something that looks interesting and I know this one particular buyer or that buyer or all of them are looking for something, that'll fit their needs, I send it to them right away. And I say, hey,
MLS is a living,
let's go.
Thing. Yeah, it is a living, breathing entity that is completely representative of what the market's doing at any point in the day.
Correct.
Just for me as a nerd, I like just like sitting there and watching things like flow I mean, it's honestly, it's very, very addicting.
Well, I
Yeah.
think the key element here is that the vigilance of your realtor is important. And Gina and I have made a number of sales just because, hey, this thing popped up, so-and-so was looking for something. We call them, they go and see it, and then boom, it gets sold. So even for us, looking in MLS on a regular basis makes a difference because we mix and match them with people's needs. So
Okay.
it's
Is there such thing as too good to be true when it comes to finding, the perfect property for you? And does that question come up like with you? I mean, you guys know me, how pessimistic I am, right? I always say, okay, what's the catch for most things that like come across my desk, right? Do people come to you and say, I want to be cautiously optimistic about something?
I think generally speaking, most people want to be cautiously optimistic. And sometimes we have to be the ones to say, listen, you can't afford to be cautious right now. It's the right property. It's in the right price point. What we need to do right now is we need to hold hands and jump. Because if you wait too long, somebody else is going to get it. And then what? It's hard to find the right property at the right price point.
And that's where the fun comes in, right? Because you're like, hey, it's time to go. So, and if you got all your ducks in a row with the bank again in part one, and you've got a good realtor from part two, this should be a natural progression, and it should be very, very frictionless for you as a buyer.
It should. Now, we do have buyers that are very cautious that they wait and then the property gets taken. And it happens 2-3 times. And then finally we say, hey, it's either you listen to our advice, otherwise you're never going to find the right property if you continue to wait. But again, our objective is to help our buyers find what works for them. Our goal is always to serve them. But at the same time, the real estate advice is also very critical in making the right decision.
Okay, and I want to kind of give some context to this, Gina, because when we talk about buyers, typically that tends to be a singular reference, right? It may be the name of the individual whose name is on the mortgage or whatever, but let's just say like a married couple. You guys have actually really emphasized the point that finding the right property is typically, especially with familial units, it's the husband and the wife and the kids. So how, when you say, okay, like, we feel really good as a family about this particular property, do you then as realtors say, you guys go have like your little conference, maybe go out to eat, get some pancakes, have fried rice a la whatever, like whatever makes you feel really, really good, and then kind of discuss it as a group and make sure that you guys are 100% on board with this?
That's a good point, because we often, especially, and it doesn't have to be husband and wife, it could be partners, it could be just two people trying to find the right property. And
Common law.
I always caution, yeah, I mean, I would say 70% of the time my husband and I don't agree on things, 70%. So that applies when you're looking at homes too. And what I always tell people is, listen, you have to buy the same property, and don't forget you're moving in together. So absolutely, and we know when you can have a lot of time to think, or when go to the corner, get in your car, talk privately, or I'm going to walk away for a little bit while you guys talk. But you need to make a decision, because you both have to buy the same house, right? You're not going to buy two different houses, and you have to both agree. So if this isn't the one and it's going to cause too much friction, let's move on. Let's go to number 5 on the list. But yes, we always encourage that you both need to be happy about that decision. And I always tell people, once you make the decision and I help you close the deal, I'm not making the mortgage payments. So make sure you're both in line, or the 3 of you are in line, or the 4 of you, whatever it is, be in line.
Yeah, Gina and I usually have a sixth sense when we're meeting with people. We could tell like whether they're all in alignment. And if they're in alignment, we know the transaction will move smooth. If someone you can tell is not quite sold, then we ask the question, what is the issue? What is your issue? Because if we don't ask that question, guaranteed that transaction will fall apart.
Yeah.
So that is critical, that we flush out all the concerns or the issues that either one of the buyers have. Because if we don't, my gut sense always tells me, and same with Gina, the deal falls apart if we don't ask those questions on the front end.
Okay, we're trademarking something right here on House to Home. This is called the Liz, Gina, and Jason fun test, right? So when you're making that decision, if you want to pull the trigger on that deal, if your heart isn't really into it, and if you don't have confidence and you're not having fun, that might indicate that this is not the right deal for you.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
And your realtor isn't going to try and pressure you into making a decision that you probably shouldn't do. They're going to nudge you along, but ultimately it comes down to you and how do you feel and how fun is the process, right?
Yeah, that's right. The other thing I want to point out that even if you go online and you look for properties, if you call us and you say, okay, I'm interested in ABC, these 3 properties, what Gina and I would do is always call and check, because a lot of times, as Gina pointed out, the properties are taken, even though it still shows available. It could be in the middle of a documentation. It could be middle of a signature. So we always double check, because at the same time, we don't want to waste your time to go look at it, be disheartened, and then it doesn't pan out because it was already taken. So
right,
we're pretty
Gina,
diligent about that.
Yeah, sorry, Liz. And Gina, let's end with this, because the fun test that we've now trademarked House to Home 2024, is bi-directional, right? It's mutual. If you're having fun setting up that transaction for the customer and the customer's having fun doing that, that's going to be like a positive experience and they're going to get the right home.
Oh, absolutely. But part of our job is to take on their stress and burdens, right? So like I tell my buyers when I'm working with them, these are the things you need to do. And what I need you to do is put it together and throw it at me. I'll do the legwork. So yes, it's fun working with them, but you need a realtor that's going to run around for you too and orchestrate everything into the right order.
Okay.
You love doing it.
I always say we try to make it as painless as possible.
There you go. So, all the numbers and the banking and the realtors, everybody watching this, like all of that aside, the psychology of it, as these 2 wonderful learned ladies have now proven once again for 9 years in a row, does it feel right? You might just want to ask yourself that, and your realtor will help you get there. So, ladies, thank you so much.
Correct.
This was fun. This episode was fun.
It always is.
It's fun.
Okay, so now that we've selected our property, give us a tease for what's going to come up in part 4 next week.
Documentation.
I think next week we should be making offers, and let's get into the nitty-gritty of the sales contracts.
Okay, prepare to make that offer. Tell your realtor, let's go. Let's do this. Let's pull that trigger. Let's tug of war. What? Okay, sorry, before you go, what is the most common expression that's used to let's get it done? Do people just say hungan because it's mes tomorrow, or what?
I tell people it's time to jump. Let's do it.
Yep.
That works for me. All right. This was fun. Ladies, thank you as always.
Thank you, Jason.
House to Home, presented by RE/MAX Diamond Realty.